Hello, this is Tanda from Debating Africa. Welcome to another Citizen panel. Again, we've partnered with Debating Europe for this discussion on what going into space can do to improve life here on Earth. Today's panelists are citizens and enthusiasts who, like many of you, have been watching recent developments around what's been called the new frontier of intelligence and real-time situational awareness, which has become a big part of the conversation between nations. In this discussion between citizens from Africa and Europe, we look at the unique insights and opportunities available to humanity from the vintage of space and the security considerations that come into play. Today, I'm joined by Nelly from Nigeria, Chris from the United Kingdom, and Musa Ope from Botswana. To kick things off, I want to talk about space technology. Question to each of our panelists today, in terms of real world application with the potential to improve life on Earth, what area of space tech excites you? I'm going to start with this one with Nelly.
Particularly concerned about conflict. Yes, and so the area of space that intrigues me the most, the area of space that I really deeply appreciate is how we get to use Earth observation data in tracking violations of human rights. Earth observation data has proven so far to be very helpful in validating the testimonies of people that have been victims of war crimes and mass abduction and several challenges around. So yeah, exploration for me is something that it can really like improve life on Earth in terms of securing human rights. Sorry about that. Securing like the fact that we get to make sure that human rights are not being violated.
Mr. Ope?
Yes, yeah. What interests me about this space science, space technology is the use of geographical information systems and GPS and remote sensing to try to solve Earth problems with regards to agriculture and with regards to energy, doing the likes of system performance prediction of renewable energy systems. As you know, that most people they want to go sustainable, so there is need to get more of the geographical the geospatial information to predict system performance, especially systems that use the weather elements like wind, the sun, and all those things. That is an area that interests me, and that is an area that grows the economy, because we look at renewable energy and we look at agriculture, studying the rock formations and the climatic data. I think that is one of the key areas of which space can apply, and that's an area that interests me, the interlinkage between those things, the nexus between agriculture and energy.
Thank you. Two brilliant answers back to back, and such real life implications, such enormous implications if we're able to apply those to Earth. Chris, can I ask you to hop in here?
So one thing that really excites me about space, coming from sort of a politics, international relations background, is the opportunity that space provides to connect and to secure. So one thing that I've been looking at particularly is sort of the European Commission and European Space Agency's Secure Connectivity Initiative, which offers next level sort of security not only for Europe, but also for Africa and other continents, to provide that security. I mean, obviously, we're going through a huge digital transformation now. Everything's so interconnected, so interlinked. So we need to be secure from cyber attacks and things like that, which have certainly become the norm in the past sort of few years. So having that sort of protection of our critical infrastructure, so hospitals and maritime, and you're seeing all these automotive or autonomous cars going around now. If we don't have the security in our infrastructure, then we're going to be in for a lot of trouble. So that's something that really excites me, is that opportunity to provide a lot more security and safety for citizens, not only in Europe, but also across the globe and Africa. And so that's something that I'm particularly excited about. It's having that sort of real world impact on the ground even though it's all happening above our heads. So it's really interesting to see that. So that's kind of the most exciting part for me.
Yeah. And that's such a great point. It's already happening now. Commercial space companies documented the Ukraine war in an unprecedented way through the use of space satellites. I want to come back to you, Chris, and ask you about the kind of role that this imagery and data collected from space played in the international reaction to Ukraine.
Brilliant. Yes, so I think sort of obviously the role of satellites have undoubtedly changed the way that information is collected. Not only if you go back in time in previous conflicts, there's so many hours being spent putting together what happened, but now we can see it happening in real time, which provides a lot more sort of intelligence and sort of irrefutable evidence when fighting against disinformation and things like that. So the role that space applications now play in terms of imagery and data shows the pivotal role that they have, not only in terms of providing evidence against war crimes and things like that, but also it shows it's supporting the Ukrainian efforts at the moment, providing military intelligence and real-time applications for those on the ground, for citizens, for soldiers in a military aspect, and for refugees. And so I'd say that those images that have been shared both by satellite and also through Starlink, which is something that's been particularly amazing, having that sort of a whole sort of infrastructure set up overnight essentially is really incredible, and it gives that opportunity for normal Ukrainians, not just sort of the military aspect, to share their experiences in real time. You're seeing TikToks go up from teenagers that are fighting and going into these bunkers and things like that. And I think that's something that has been lost in previous conflicts, is that personal touch, that it's not just the soldiers on the front line that are going through issues. It's also the teenagers that have lost friends, or have ended up in all sorts of different countries, and I think that's particularly important. And it also gives a really strong implication as to drive that international reaction that we've had across the globe. If you haven't been seeing these really important sort of personal stories, then it's a lot harder to feel attached to these sort of emotional issues. So I think that's really important in amplifying and speeding up the response that we've seen. But it also support those on the ground. So I think it's only an application for good. And it's really exciting to see that it's being utilized, but also we need to ensure that it's being utilized in a safe and proper way, so we don't have things like space debris and such issues like that, where future generations that will find even more applications in the future will still be able to do that as well. So you need to find a balance, I think, but it's been crucial and revolutionary, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. But as this expansion happens, as this infrastructure develops, we need laws to govern that. Or do we? Who knows? Nelly, can you come in here? What kind of laws are governing space now? And how is this going to evolve as more, not just individuals, but corporations and nations come into play?
Okay, thank you very much. And international space law, as we know it, primarily governs the activities of humankind in outer space. Although it was originally inspired by the need for peaceful and cooperative exploration in the 60s, space law has evolved over time. So primarily, space law provides a framework, a legal framework and regime where we talk about registration of space objects, the peaceful use of space, issues, appropriation of space, ownership in space, and jurisdiction in outer space. So these broad legal issues are what space law and space governance tends to accommodate at the moment. But like you rightly said, the world is changing very fast and technology has evolved rapidly. Now we have people going to space almost every 2 weeks. So space law also has to evolve, and there are new and trending issues, like you mentioned, orbital debris, which is a big concern, because the more rocket launches we have, the more we are exposing our environment and the space environment to all sorts of gaseous substances. And also the low Earth orbit is currently being crowded with thousands of satellites. Everybody is orbiting satellite, but we don't talk enough about deorbiting. So this is where space law comes in. We also have issues such as potential military conflict in outer space. Even the Ukraine war, he's been talking about is something that has also caused some kind of tension. When you look at the fact that the ISS is being, co-accommodated by the United States and by Russia. So those are the issues that space law kind of tends to cover. Space traffic management is also an evolving issue. When it comes to international space law, we have to look at the independence and sovereignty of countries. And Chris is a big guy on politics, so I think you kind of like understand what I'm saying. So the pace is slow in coming to like a concrete and universal understanding on how we really want to govern in outer space. But so far, the United Nations Office on Outer Space and Space has been doing a very great job, and we look forward to more support for space law to new and trending issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelly. You said it perfectly. Musa Ope, can I bring you back in here? The conversation around Africa, sustainability, climate change, we're going to be the hardest hit, food security. There are a lot of challenges. Can this realm help us find solutions to those issues, certainly in the agricultural sector?
Yes, yeah, definitely. The issue of including space in this matrix will actually help Africa in a great way, especially if we look at the energy, renewable energy, and the agriculture matrix and nexus. You find out that if we now have our own satellites that will be monitoring and providing the geospatial information, you find out that we can now be able now to build better renewable energy systems that will be able to power our agricultural sector and produce food and as always power the economy. And we are also able now to also do technological transfer, what you call information, scientific information, which we get from the geographical information systems. We are able now to analyze the different land uses and how the different land uses change over time is affecting the climatic data in real time. Yeah, so I believe that this can actually help Africa in a good way and in a big way as far as the economy is, as far as the livelihood and the health of the people in Africa. Because once we provide food and energy, it means that we have created a platform where people can now start to have a better life and a healthy life.
Beautifully stated. You guys are so cool. You're so cool and so smart, and I'm just like so excited for people to hear this conversation. Okay, let's move on. Chris, in terms of the groundbreaking real life applications of projects by the European Space Program, projects that have already been applied to solving human issues, tell me what cool things are happening out there from a European perspective.
So I think one thing that particularly excites me is something that I've kind of touched upon and Nelly's touched upon already in terms of the issue of space debris. I think that's one thing that is a real concern, because if we're not able to access space again, it's really going to cause an issue. And the innovation that we're making at the moment and the huge strides that's being made in the sort of the new space sector will be all for nothing, really. So as sort of we go forward and embrace this sort of new entrepreneurial and innovative mindset, got there in the end. I think the Secure Connectivity Initiative will be a real game changer, backed by the European Union's Global Gateway Initiative as well. There's an obvious need for space in our current world and the way that things are. But with innovation and more satellites going up presents more issues in terms of that space management system that Nelly mentioned. And so we need to be able to ensure that we regulate space. Obviously, that comes with all sorts of lawful and legal implications, but we need to ensure that it's used in a responsible way, so we don't have issues such as satellites crashing into each other, which can then cause issues, not only in terms of those applications down on Earth, but also political issues as well. And so I think one really exciting thing that the European Space Agency is doing is leading a mission called ClearSpace One, which is partnering with a Swiss-based organization startup called ClearSpace. And they're planning for launch in 2025 to essentially use a satellite to grab space debris and bring it back down. And so I think that's one thing that's particularly exciting. It's a good first step. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to solve anything overnight. But it's exciting to see that there's political will, there's financial will, and there's an understanding across the globe that this is something that we really need if we're going to essentially, continue to captivate Earth or captivate space and really make use of it. There's no use in it, all this innovation if in 20, 30 years there's no space to go to. So I think that's the real groundbreaking and real life application that I'm most excited about. There are hundreds and thousands to list as well. And I'm sure by the end of this conversation, there'll probably be millions, which is exciting. But that's kind of the one thing that I'm particularly, passionate for.
I can tell. Okay. Nelly, I know you work with a lot of young Africans in the space. What are the opportunities? Number one, just tell us about the projects that you're doing. I personally want to hear about them. And then after that, what opportunities should young Africans be looking out for in this area?
Thank you very much, Tanda. So I do mostly space literacy programs and space awareness programs. So I work for several space organizations. So I'll just quickly mention a few. So for the Learn Space Foundation is particularly based in Nigeria. What we do is we organize local space competitions, like debates, competitions, quizzes for children in schools, in high schools mostly. We've been organized some at the primary level. So we focus on space education at the Learn Space Foundation. So we found out that a lot of them, they don't really learn much about space and astronomy education in school. He has mentioned astronomy with that borders I'm talking about in Tamba. So such organizations like that, sometimes they can't reach everybody. So what we do at the Learn Space Foundation is we reach out to these communities, we reach out to students. We have some of the pictures and things on our social media, and we tell them about space, and they're always very excited because they learn this in school, but there's no more such of like an emphasis. So you have children growing up saying, oh, I want to be an astronaut, and then they never get to hear anything about space anymore. So we reignite their passion, we inspire them. That's at the primary level. And I also work for the Space Generation Advisory Council. I volunteer for them. I'm the national point of contact for Nigeria. So Space Generation Advisory Council, mostly what we do too is also, we're a group of young professionals and undergraduates where we create some community where people can space in terms of ideas. We have different project groups like Space Law and Policy, Space Life Sciences, satellites, and it's a really big organization. So here in Africa, we organize events where we bring young people together to talk about how can we grow like the need for space exploration in the continent. How can we really do something? So I organized the fourth African Space Generation Workshop that was held in Accra, Ghana, and also the fifth Africa Space Generation Workshop that was held in South Africa. So just to round up answering your question, in terms of the opportunities available, the thing about space, said, is space is for everyone. If you're in law, politics, science, GIS, mappings, it's really a broad industry. So wherever, whatever career prospects that you are pursuing, even if it's journalism, like literally anything is related to space, I try to tell young people, just find a space community and try to bring your perspective, your idea from your field. And the space industry is open. Yes, I would agree that the market is not as big as the market in Europe, like Chris keeps talking about. So far, just 11 countries have launched satellites to outer space so far, and we have about 44 satellites in the whole continent. So it's not like it's a very big market. But what I can assure young people is it's a growing market. It's exciting. The African Union Commission recently have established the African Space Agency, although it's still at its futile stage. But we have the African Space Agency that is headquartered in Egypt, and we are looking for it to be something great. So apart from the Space Agency, the African Space Agency, different countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Angola, South Africa have space agencies where they can intern in, where they can show their interest. Apart from government agencies, they can reach out to multilateral corporations. You don't really have to travel across the country or across the continent. You can work remotely. And so as a final word, I would just like to encourage people in Africa not to give up on their space dreams. The most important thing is staying connected with the community, and you can do that by, following up on news and media that are related to space in Africa. You can follow. There's a media organization called Space in Africa, and they post opportunities, job opportunities, scholarship and internship opportunities in the African space sector. They can follow that up. We have Space Hubs Africa. You have the Space Generation Advisory Council, Land Space Foundation, and basically all the organizations that I know. And there's so many of them these days coming up in Africa, and just associate with them, reach out, and don't give up. I think I really love the fact that we're having this conversation now. We are calling Africa, because sometimes I feel like, we can't talk about space. We have too many problems. We should go back to our farm.
I couldn't, I couldn't agree more.
In Africa, I'm happy that African countries and can engage in kind of conversation. 20 years ago, it wasn't possible, but the whole world has changed, and we should not be take up space. Thank you.
I so agree with you, and I know this is true because you said, young Africans mustn't be afraid to dream in this realm. And I don't know if we have permission to. You're so right. Hilarious. Okay, at this point, I want to give you guys an opportunity to, we have a slot at the Friends of Europe Space Summit on the 20th of June, where we can share your comments, your ideas, your questions to the experts and policymakers that will be in attendance. So I really want you guys to use this opportunity to talk Africa in space, to ask a pertinent question about funding and resourcing, whatever it is that you would want to pose to those panelists, which I had a bit of a glance, and it's a really great panel. So let's start with Musa.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, what I would like to be included, maybe to assist Africans, is to have a space curriculum for the kids, and also even for those in the secondary schools, having space curriculum. I think it's good, even for the university programs, to actually have real astronomy and space courses to be carried out, and as well as to have some kind of policy and funding initiatives that start from grassroots, not only within maybe the urban communities, but also even starting from the rural communities up to the adults. Having those space communities is really something which needs to be looked at, and also having to look into the nexus between energy and agriculture as a means to solve Africa's problems.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Chris, same question, answer, idea.
So I think space in Europe's picking up a lot of speed, and that's one thing that we need to be able to share with Europe. I think that's one thing that in the past sort of few years that has really taken hold is that idea and European value of sharing our successes with the world, as we've seen with the secure connectivity. So I think that's one thing that I'd encourage policymakers to do is to put that funding where it can benefit not only Europe and European citizens, but also the global citizens as well. It's particularly exciting seeing that projects that we work on as Europeans are benefiting, the space and Earth. I think space has an opportunity to connect us even more than it already has done. It has an opportunity to sustain us with agriculture and those sorts of issues. And so I think it's capitalizing on that and carrying the momentum forward, that it's not just a phase that space has come back in this space race. It's something that's here to stay, and it's something that we need to ensure that Europe and its allies and the whole of the globe can continue to benefit from. So that's one thing that I'd encourage policymakers to continue the great work that we're doing, but we can move faster, we can move quicker, and initializing and gaining this funding from public and also private investments really important, so everyone can benefit, not just a few.
Beautiful. Nelly?
Yeah, thank you very much. So yes, I have two contributions. For the policymakers, I think I have a question, and my question would be, considering the current rustle and talk about potential military conflicts in space, which we really hope doesn't happen. But I would like to know, and I think the world would like to know, if Europe has a continental approach or policy view to conflict in outer space, considering the provisions of Article 4 of the Outer Space Treaty, where we have all agreed for the continuous peaceful use of space. So I want to know, what is Europe's idea? Is there a continental front, or do different countries have their different views on potential military conflicts in outer space? And then secondly, I think I mentioned this at the last Europe-Africa high-level forum on Earth observation, and I'll mention it again here. We need some kind of youth advisory. Chris has mentioned the need for collaboration. So we need a youth advisory on not just on policy, but also implementation on space between the two continents, Europe and Africa, where young people across the continents can, share ideas and be able to agree on how we should go forward in this new space age. So yes, collaboration is key when it comes to space. It has always been like that since the 50s. And even in this millennium, we are hoping that Europe and Africa, the young people in Europe and Africa, can come together to, proffer ideas and solutions on how we can make space exploration not just big dreams and have all the big things on going to Mars, but how do we make it sustainable? Yeah, sustainability is the key word to ensure the sustainable and the peaceful use of space. We need a youth advisory. So yeah, thank you very much. That'll be all from my end.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nelly, Chris, Musa Ope. This has been such an informative discussion. I wish we had more time, but unfortunately, this is all we have time for. Thank you to our panelists for an incredible conversation. If you want to hear more on this topic, you must sign up for the Friends of Europe Making Space Matter Summit on the 20th of June. We will leave a link to that in the description. There you can enjoy a series of interactive debates on issues such as space, exploration, satellite system security, entrepreneurship, and more, with questions from our panelists to the attending experts and policymakers. In the meanwhile, if you enjoyed this discussion, please like the video, comment your ideas and reactions, and follow Debating Africa and Debating Europe on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Until then, bye.